The radios at Salone Airfield went silent so abruptly that everyone in the control tower froze. A P-47 Thunderbolt, heavy, battle-scarred, and hours overdue, had just sent a final strained transmission. Fuel gone. Engine out. Then the line died. No follow-up, no sputter, no last call, just cold static. The crew exchanged the look they hated most, the one that meant another aircraft lost. The Thunderbolt was a brute in combat, but once the fuel was gone, it didn't glide. It dropped. Every mechanic on base knew the physics. A 6-ton machine with a massive radial engine didn't stay in the air without power. Ever. A clerk began writing the loss report with a grim hand. Outside, ground crews muttered and went back to their tools. A dead-engine P-47 over the Adriatic meant one thing. There would be no landing. 20 minutes later, a spotter on the ridge shouted, "Aircraft inbound." Heads snapped upward. A silver shape slid over the coastline, quiet, eerie, impossibly steady. The propeller wasn't roaring. It was spinning freely, windmilling, no engine, no vibration, no smoke, just a dead airplane drifting like a gull on a sea breeze. One mechanic whispered, "That's not possible." The Thunderbolt descended toward the runway at a perfect, feather-smooth angle. The wheels touched down with the softest chirp. No bounce, no struggle. It rolled to a stop like it had been flown in by an instructor on a calm Sunday morning. But the tanks? Empty, bone dry. Not low, zero. The fuel system was empty enough to qualify as a warning exhibit in a training course. The pilot climbed out trembling, helmet under his arm, eyes scanning the stunned faces around him. "It wasn't me," he said quietly. "The prop. It kept pulling air like it wanted to keep us flying." All eyes drifted to a man standing slightly apart from the crowd. Staff Sergeant Roy Bennett. Propeller specialist. Aerodynamics tinkerer. Chronic rule bender. The one who'd always said, "Engines fail, air doesn't." The pilot pointed at him. "Whatever you did saved my life." Bennett only shrugged. He didn't want credit. He wanted proof. Proof that a concept the Air Force had abandoned years ago still worked. Because what the airfield had just witnessed was more than a miracle landing. It was the resurrection of a forbidden idea. Long before Bennett wore a uniform, he was a kid who dismantled lawnmower engines just to see how air moved around the blades. His teachers said he should study engineering. He ignored them. He preferred learning from the wind directly, watching birds, listening to how air slipped past telephone wires, observing how a shift in breeze could change direction without warning. By the time he enlisted, he wasn't a technician. He was an aerodynamic obsessive. He noticed something everyone else ignored. The P-47's standard propeller was built for durability, not efficiency. It performed brilliantly during high-power maneuvers, but stole huge amounts of energy in low-power or dead-engine scenarios. In other words, it turned a powerless Thunderbolt into a falling anvil. Bennett couldn't accept that. Not when pilots were dying because a machine refused to glide. He believed a propeller didn't just push air, it could shape it. Even without an active engine, certain blade designs could maintain laminar airflow across the wings, giving the aircraft just enough lift to stretch its descent miles farther than theory claimed. But the Air Force hated improvisation, modifying flight hardware, forbidden, experimenting with prop pitch, grounds for reprimand, tinkering with unapproved aerodynamic alterations, a direct violation. Bennett did it anyway. In off hours, he filed blade edges, adjusted angles, and experimented with slight curvature changes. Nothing dramatic, just refinements based on what he'd studied his whole life, how the wind wanted to move. He tested the modifications on grounded aircraft, measuring windmilling RPM, glide decay, and lift retention in low-speed taxi tows. The numbers didn't just look promising, they rewrote what was possible for a Thunderbolt to survive. But no pilot trusted a tweaked propeller, not until one man, arrogant, brutal, fearless, asked Bennett to do whatever black magic you do to squeeze an extra ounce of safety out of his aircraft. That was the pilot who landed the dead-engine P-47. And when word spread of the impossible glide that carried the fighter home, officers convened meetings, engineers pored over calculations, and commanders demanded explanations. Bennett overheard one of them mutter the question he'd been waiting his whole life to hear. How did that aircraft stay in the air for so long? The answer was simple. They'd all been taught the wrong limitations. The Air Force didn't like miracles. Miracles meant something unpredictable had happened. And unpredictability meant risk. Within 24 hours, Bennett's modified P-47 was pushed into a hangar and surrounded by officers, engineers, and clipboard-carrying skeptics determined to debunk what the tower had witnessed. First came the fuel inspection. The verdict, completely empty. That alone should have grounded the plane miles offshore. Next came the propeller analysis. Engineers traced every modification Bennett had made. Microfilings, subtle pitch alterations, blade curvature adjustments measured in millimeters. None were dramatic enough to raise alarms, but together, they created a prop that generated stable airflow even in a free spin. One officer scoffed, "So you're saying this damn thing glided like a sailplane, a 6-ton fighter?" Bennett didn't flinch. "I'm saying it didn't fall out of the sky." They tested airflow across the wings using ground fans, smoke patterns, and angle of attack measurements. The results startled even the skeptics. The modified propeller produced just enough forward airflow to keep lift consistent during descent, essentially giving the Thunderbolt a gentle, controllable glide path. One engineer shook his head. "This isn't supposed to be possible." But it was possible, because Bennett understood something the textbooks didn't teach. A propeller wasn't just a tool for thrust, it was a wind-sculpting device, a stabilizer, a lifeline. The investigation team didn't know whether to shut Bennett down or promote him. The base commander settled it by asking the simplest question of all. "Can this save more pilots?" Bennett answered quietly, "Yes, sir, it already did." That was the turning point. The Air Force, once suspicious and rigid, now wanted every ounce of his obsession. They asked for safer configurations, new aerodynamic approaches, and improvements that could turn a crippled aircraft into one that could limp home instead of vanish into the sea. Bennett finally saw what he'd dreamed of since childhood. His ideas weren't just heard, they were needed. But before they could put anything into practice, Bennett requested one thing. "Let me test a fully refined version myself." And the Air Force, curious now, convinced even, agreed. They prepared the test under clear skies. Bennett stood beside the modified Thunderbolt, running his hands over the propeller blades like a craftsman checking the grain of his work. The aircraft wasn't special, it was ordinary. That was the point. If his design worked here, it would work anywhere. Mechanics strapped him in. Officers took notes, pilots stood watching, arms crossed, curious whether the quiet prop specialist could do what trained combat aviators considered suicidal. Bennett took off smoothly, circling the airfield once before climbing into the open sky. He radioed down with professional calm, "Beginning power-off test." The engine faded to silence. The aircraft dipped, then leveled, caught by the steady pull of wind slipping through Bennett's redesigned blades. The Thunderbolt didn't stall, didn't dive, didn't buck. It glided, a 6-ton warplane drifting like a bird. He let the aircraft descend toward the field, adjusting only with rudder and stick. No power, no safety net, no engine-driven control. Just air and shape and the physics he'd believed in since childhood. When the wheels kissed the runway, soft, straight, perfect, the airfield erupted. Mechanics cheered. Officers stared, stunned. Pilots clapped him on the back as he stepped down from the cockpit. One senior engineer summed it up best. "You just rewrote the book." Bennett didn't seek praise. He simply nodded toward the propeller. "It's not the engine that gets you home. It's understanding the air." Within weeks, modified propeller designs were quietly approved for testing across multiple airfields. Pilots trained on emergency glide procedures, and aircraft that once would have been written off as lost began returning, dead engines, empty tanks, but alive. The miracle became a method, the method became policy, and the policy saved lives. Roy Bennett never saw himself as a genius. He saw himself as a listener, because long before the Air Force believed him, long before the Thunderbolt proved him right, long before pilots trusted his modifications, the wind had been telling him the truth the entire time, and he was the only one who listened.